Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tech Down Over, episode number 54? 54.
54,
And,
I think it is. That's right.
You're right. I'm joined by my friend down under, Jeff Blanchard. How you doing, Jeff?
Good, thank you, Rick. Our first show for 2016. It feels like we haven't been on the air for ages. And this week, we've got ourselves an excellent guest to start off. I'll let you do the introductions.
We do. I'm looking very forward to this. Here we go. And we're back. Well, today we've got a great start to 2016. We have with us a very well-known author, photographer, and actually, we were talking about this pre-show. He's authored books that I've read many years ago and that we still use every so often on some of our Microsoft server systems. The man is not a photographer only. There is a secret background to Tony Northrup. He's joining us today. Hey, Tony, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. And,
I'm just laughing at the idea that I was like keeping it a secret or something. I was trying desperately to get people to buy computer books for like 15 years and just nobody bothered.
Really? Nobody bought those? Oh, I can't believe it.
Not that many.
Every geek I know walks around with their MCSE books, and you walk into our computer room upstairs, and we've got, I think we have at least 10 of your books.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thanks for the support.
I have that one.
You kept me eating there for the many lean years in the tech world after that crash of 2001.
I know. That was bad. We know that well. I think all of us, went through that one way or another. I think I consider ourselves survivors. We've all survived our great leadership. So, yeah, it's fun.
Now, what got me hooked onto Tony's videos was I was looking around for a bit of photography help, and then I came across a few comments on the internet, and I saw this one comment, and I thought, I've got to check this fella out. So he puts a lot of time and effort into his presentations and offers down-to-earth advice. So I thought, I've got to talk to this fella. So, Tony, what got you into the serious photography side?
Well, I've been taking pictures for most of my adult life. When I was 22 or so, I moved from Central Texas, which is very flat and brown, to New England, which is lush and beautiful with mountains and hills and wildlife bigger than rattlesnakes. And so I thought everything was just, I was blown away by the beauty of it, even though people who grew up here, perhaps they just habituated to it. But I really wanted to capture everything. So I didn't grow up around cameras and stuff. My family just didn't have them. But I went and got a disposable camera and saw these like beautiful things. I went to Baxter State Park and saw this moose emerging from a pond in the mountains. And I took the best pictures I could with that stupid disposable camera, but they turned out they were disposable camera pictures, and they weren't good enough. And so I wanted to do a better job of capturing the beautiful things that I saw. And that's where it really took off. I got an SLR and a Elan 2E, back an old film SLR. And I was a nerd, so I got myself a film scanner, and I was one of the few people who knew how to set up a website at the time, so I started putting pictures online, like back in the 98 or so, back before people really did that. And then when Google Ads came around, I could start to actually make some money off of those pictures, and I had some money to buy some real gear, and suddenly I was making money from photography. I was a professional, and I've been doing it ever since.
Well, one thing that's interesting, you sent me a note earlier because I told you a little about what we did with e-learning, and you said, I'm all about e-learning. That's my life. And it's true, because your books, what people don't realize, and you have the Stunning Digital Photography. Let me show the cover of that one. With that book, you don't just get a book. You get an awful lot of good content with it. That I don't know if people realize that, but there's a ton of e-learning with it. A ton of discussion and samples and talk. That's great. I mean, the value of your book, goes up 20 times. So it's a deal.
Thanks.
It's a deal. It really is.
I don't want to make it sound like an ad, but I can kind of talk about the e-learning side of it, because I've been writing computer books for a long time before that, and I was working really closely with some of the best minds in the world on how to teach people things. It's a big part of the reason your tech support calls are taken in like developing countries like India are because we figured out ways to let people learn anywhere at their own pace at a very low cost, and that was through books at the time. And books were all we had. So we had, practice quizzes that you could work through, and we would create scenarios and lab environments and stuff that people could do in their own home or with really limited resources. And I was always just amazed at the impact that had on just a worldwide basis, because you can, a teacher can have a profound impact on, their 20 students or their 200 students or however many they have. But if you create a piece of content that can be distributed worldwide, then you can impact the lives of hundreds of thousands or millions of people. And so I've always been fascinated with the idea of e-learning, of creating scalable education and creating a way to educate people that wasn't expensive, that didn't require them to go to an expensive university, that would allow them to do it after their normal working hours without having to enroll in night school, or, while they were babysitting their kids and taking care of their children, they could also be learning something. So my goal with Stunning Digital Photography, I left my publisher to write that book, because I've been working with Microsoft Press and O'Reilly, really the biggest publishers. Yep. And O'Reilly definitely would have published a photography book, but I wanted to do it on my own because I wanted to have complete control of it, because I wanted to do these really unconventional things. So I just kind of started from scratch, and I thought, how would people learn best? And it took apart every different type of learner, because different people learn differently. Different people have priorities. Some people learn by reading really well, which is my favorite way to learn, because you can skip forward and skip back. You can control the pacing of it. Other people like to watch a video because you can see interactive things. You can see more depth, and it's just more of a lean back experience, because some people just don't like reading. Some people learn from a combination of those things. So I just put videos in the book, like short, ADD-oriented 5-minute videos for different specific topics in the book, which I thought would be supplemented, where the text itself could use some additional clarity. And then I realized a lot of people, one of the things they like about the classroom environment is the ability to ask their peers questions, to like go out with peers and take pictures, to ask the teacher questions and get individual personalized feedback. So to address that, well, for one, I started accepting a lot of emails, which I can't answer every email anymore, but I used to. But we also created a Facebook group and a web forum just for people reading the book. So everybody would know that they were all in the education process and they had the same learning materials. But this like peer-to-peer support helped out a lot of people greatly. And then we have other things in the book too, like quizzes and interactive quizzes that are like ungraded, but just kind of force your brain to process the information in a different way as you try to actually actively troubleshoot a problem. It's not so much to test yourself as it is to help make those memories more permanent. So I've spent a lot of time studying e-learning and how to get it done, and I'm real pleased with the results that people working through Stunning Digital Photography have gotten. I really feel like it's been a good model for e-learning, and I hope it's a model that other people steal and use some of these concepts for their own, because I really would like to see it spread to other forms of education, science, math, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've definitely won me there, Tony. You've got me. I went out and bought your book on the iBook.
Oh, good.
And I just think it's fantastic, because I'm one of those that I do like to read a book, but also I do like to be shown things occasionally, so that works ideally for me. But also what I like with your book is it grows as well. It doesn't stay. When you've got something new, you update it.
Yeah, the downside to that is it's a lot of work for us, because if you buy SDP once, Stunning Digital Photography once, you get it for life. And I've committed to updating this book for as long as I'm alive. And we released the first version in 2011, and it's 2016 now. So everybody who got the book in 2011 is still getting these updates. And there have been a lot of updates. People say, like the first version of the book, it covered the exposure triangle, which every other book covers. But I had so many people saying, I still don't understand aperture, shutter speed, all that. So I realized the exposure triangle didn't make any sense from an educational perspective. People just couldn't learn that way. So I got rid of that. I came up with whole new metaphors to teach these kinds of things. And then I pushed those updates out to everybody. But, I talk to readers all the time, and I talk to them about the things that they don't understand. I look at dozens, maybe hundreds of pictures every week from actual readers of the book, and I see the things that they're doing wrong. And whatever they're doing wrong, I go back, I blame myself. I go back and I update the book so the next person who comes through won't make those same kinds of mistakes. So it is constantly growing, and it's keeping up with advancements in camera technology. Like mirrorless photography changed so many things.
Yeah.
You know, you don't really have to worry about bracketing as much because you can actually see the exposure before you take your picture. And so little things like that stylistically just change the process of photography. And I've gone back and updated the book so it's inclusive for those types of photographers.
So do you think mirrorless will one day be the only way, or do you think the mirrors will continue for a long time?
I wonder that a lot. I definitely think we have, for let's say landscape photographers, even portrait photographers, I think mirrorless is going to take over real soon, or at least the architecture is capable of it. We're still kind of waiting for the manufacturers to deliver, but there are some theories that, especially for long lens photography, like sports and wildlife photography, that you will simply need larger phase detect sensors to be able to accurately and quickly gauge the distance of your subject and get that subject in focus. And right now on DSLRs, there's a separate, not everybody knows this, there's a separate focusing system that's off the sensor, it's off the mirror, it's in a different place, and the mirror does the job of sending some of the light there. So mirrorless cameras have to handle that sort of thing by putting the phase detect sensors on the sensor itself, mixed in with the pixels. And as a result, they have to be really small. And I don't know how they're ever going to overcome that physical size aspect of it, because they just need to be bigger to get a better angle on a faraway subject. I don't know how they overcome that, but maybe they will. They're getting better and better.
Well, it seems like the Panasonic GH4 revolutionized everything almost 2 years ago. And now the rumor is that sometime around maybe April, maybe sooner, maybe later, we'll have a GH5. And I'm curious to see what they put into it. I've heard rumors and this and that. It'll be very interesting to see what they put into it to make it more worthwhile than the GH4 is. I have the GH4, and yet, something I swore I'd never do, I just invested in 3 full-frame Nikons. And I'm thinking, okay, that's probably not a great investment, but I love them. They just do beautiful photography. And it's hard.
Why
it's
did you
easy to
get
find
3 though?
Oh, because
Why 3 cameras?
It's for our run and shoot. If we need 2 to 3 cameras shoot, we've got them. So it's
For
really
video?
We do video. Yeah.
Oh, I'm surprised you were using it for video. We switched to mirrorless when the release of the GH4 happened. We got the GH4, and since then we migrated to full frame Sony cameras, but we haven't shot video on a DSLR in like 2 or 3 years.
We thought about the Sony, and I did buy one Sony, but I cheated. I got the cheap one. I got the RX10 Mark II just to test it, to see if I liked it.
Yeah.
I did and I didn't. So I just gave it away as a gift and to somebody that we care about. But and he was thrilled because he loves Sony. But I already have Canon. Canon I have some issues with, but I'm okay with it. We have a lot of Canon camcorders, and they're great for video. But the DSLRs are fun, and the video out of the Nikons is pretty nice. The colors look good. The GH4 looks great. And we'll probably get a couple more of those. We have the GX8 too, which is nice. They're both very good.
I think the GX8 is a fantastic value.
For the money, it's incredible. Yeah, it's a good little
and 4K
camera.
video to me just when we went 4K and I haven't been able to go back, especially as somebody who also edits the video, the ability to crop in and pan and zoom and just like fix your level without losing resolution, even if you're publishing at 1080. I love it.
And see, a ton of what we do is interviews, so we can get away with almost anything, and that's why I didn't mind investing in the Nikons. It was for taxes, so we figured, oh well, we have to spend it on something, and we already had the other one, so let's try it. I did buy a C100, the Canon. I did not like it.
Yeah, that's a real camera,
and I didn't like it.
Oh, really?
The menus to me were worse than Sony, and that's pretty bad. And the workflows, I don't want to spend all my day grading or have to get somebody just to do color grading because it needs a lot of color grading. So that's the only reason I didn't stick with it. I returned it. The people at Sammy's looked at me, but they took it. They were nice because we've been a long-term client. And I got the DA10 instead, which I like. So at least with that one, I can be useful instantly. Whereas with the C100, I was going, this is not easy. And we've had higher end Canon camcorders. They were easier. This one just threw me for a loop. I was going, and I didn't want to spend weeks learning it. Just didn't have the time.
Yeah.
So
Whatever works for you.
So
That's
Tony,
great.
the Sony camera you got, the full frame, was it the A7S2 you got for the video, or the A7R2? I'm getting a bit confused with their numbers these days.
We originally shot with the A7S and an external recorder. Now we're shooting mostly with the A7R2. So we did
You like
test
that
out
one
the
better?
A7S2, but I just found the A7R2 to be a little more versatile because it's a better stills camera too.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm
not-
The
sort of
A7R2
tossing
is
with
that
them having
42
those two
megapixel
models.
thing, and it
You-
has
you
like
get the other
4K,
one, the
but it can
S2,
also do
which has
4K and a
much better
1.5x
video.
crop.
Oh, I'm sorry. You guys were both talking at the same time.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't
I'll
hear what you
stop.
said. I'm going to let you go.
Jeff, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was saying I was getting a bit confused with the A7S and the A7R2. They were saying the S is the best one for video, but it's not as good for photos. And the
Right.
other one's great for photos, great video, but not as good as the other one. I'm still undecided which one's the best out of the two.
I recommend the A7R2 to most people because the A7S2 is cleaner video, but you will not see the difference unless you're in a very, very, very dark place. Otherwise, the video is fantastic and beautiful out of both of them. And the A7R2 has the ability to crop 50% and still record 4K. So especially if you're shooting primes or you just need a little extra reach, we use that regularly. Switch between like the full frame and the 1.5x crop for 4K. It just adds to the versatility. But also it can take great stills, and the A7S2 is a terrible stills camera. I know some people use it, but it's very slow focusing and just generally a pain.
That's one thing I do
You don't
like.
come across any of the heating issues that a lot of people do come across with that?
We were able to make it overheat in our test, but it never actually overheated in actual production recording. And then this past month, Sony released a firmware update that seems to just permanently fix the overheating problem. So I think
good.
it's no longer an issue at all.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
They probably turned on the fan.
Yeah, I think all manufacturers are struggling with the heat of trying to offload all that data and process it into, a motion JPEG file or whatever format it is that they're using. Like Nikon just figured it out on one of their new cameras that they're still not yet shipping. But even on their big $6,500 D5, it has 4K video now, but it will only record in 3-minute segments. And I asked them, but I haven't heard back. And my only guess is that the D5 is really well sealed up because it's like a weatherproofed camera, and it's just not able to circulate enough air to cool it down. And so it's probably just an overheating concern.
Right. I read that, and the scary part about that is, in essence, it becomes useless for a video camera. It's a shame.
Yeah, I know. And it's so misleading that they seem to be advertising it like a 4K video camera
Right.
when for $6,500 you could get a much, much better video camera that could record, say, 4 minutes at a time.
And on the D500, which is the same chipset, the same firmware, it can do 30 minutes or 29 point something minutes. So I think you're right. It might be the heat problem from that oversealing. So
Yeah, just a
interesting.
guess. They probably will never tell me because they just get secretive.
Well, I'm
about these
hoping
things. I don't
they
know why don't
change
discuss
it before they
openly.
release it, because I think already the word's getting out there going 3 minutes. That's not real good.
No,
So,
that's silly.
or it's a problem with the FAT32 because the files may be too large, and you only get, I think, 4 gigabytes, and you've got to do a new file.
Yeah, they definitely said that they have to restart at the 4 gigabyte limit, and I think that coincides with the 3-minute limit. But on the 500, it automatically restarts after 3 minutes and makes a new file, and then for the D5,
okay.
it does not. And
Okay, that
just
isn't-
why the difference? I'm still not entirely sure.
The
It's a
GH4
weird
does that
choice.
too. I know the GX8 does it, and one day I was shooting with the GH4, and I went, "Wait a minute, this is giving me files when I didn't break." Okay, got it. The GX8 got me by
Stupid file
surprise.
systems. We're still saddled with these old file systems that can't create large files. Back when we couldn't imagine that we would ever need more than 4 gigabytes, right?
I know. My
We
wife.
now have so many video projects that come in at like 30, 40, 50, 60 gigabytes for just one video. We had a video recently that came in over 100 gigabytes.
Oh,
Not one file, but one set of
Sure.
files for a single
Sure.
video project. Yeah.
that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And it's not so bad that it's 100 gigabytes. It's how much you've got to process afterwards when you're rendering it out and everything else. You need a good render farm for this. It can take a while.
It's a pain. And those, render farms don't really exist either. You just end up waiting.
That's true. In fact, that's why we had Macs in here. We had a lot of PCs too. We build our own PCs, and we're getting away from Macs. They're just too slow for the kind of video we're trying to do. It takes too long. With the PCs we're putting SSDs in these in them, and also with the Drobos we're using, and we can just crank video pretty quickly, either real time or quicker. And I can't do that on the Macs. And that's my only concern. Could not do that. Even with Adobe Premiere and everything, it didn't work. With Final Cut, no, not even. So that was our concern when we do a lot of video.
I've always felt like you get more bang for your buck in the PC world.
That's the only thing we can do right now. And we build them. So for about $2,500, we build a $10,000 machine if you buy it. So it's a good deal.
Yeah.
It's not too bad. That's the geek in us coming out again. But
yeah. Oh yeah, I love computers. I have this big water-cooled monster that I'm using now. I
do you?
have 6 8-terabyte drives in it.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
It's the only way to go.
So Tony, you do about two YouTubes a week. Where do you find the time to produce all this content?
Well, we have 4 people on our team full time, so that's a big part of it. We're also, I'm an old school programmer, and the way programmers' brains work is we're always trying to make things more efficient. So efficiency is a big part of it. We have just a really smooth workflow that gets us through the job just as quickly as possible. But still, it's hard. We have 4 people working all the time, and YouTube is not like our primary business. Our primary business is still publishing. Yep. The books, and we have like warehouses and forklifts and stuff. Like, people don't know all this stuff is going on behind the scenes, but we're shipping tens of thousands of books a year. There's a lot else going on besides just the YouTube stuff.
So on the books, when you're shipping the books, how many people are buying books versus the Kindle, for example?
More paperbacks than ebooks, which is something I guessed incorrectly 5 years ago.
I would have considered myself. I've only bought
like
your Kindles. I bought all the Kindle books.
You bought the Kindle books?
I have all the Kindle ones. Yeah, I didn't buy the... I used to like the other ones, but I travel. And when I travel, I can carry 200 books on my phone. I don't need to carry all the paperbacks anymore. So to me, it was just easier to get them all on. And I have a Kindle. I have the 10-inch Kindle. I've got the Air 2 iPad. I think I've got another iPad somewhere. I did try the iPad Pro, and I returned it the next day. Have you tried it?
Just at the Apple Store. I have no use for that.
I was unimpressed.
Maybe when they get some apps out. Windows is going to disappear at some point, and it's going to be Windows is going to be replaced by other newer operating systems, probably Android and probably iOS. So these tablets, eventually, we're going to be able to get Lightroom and Photoshop and Premiere Pro, like proper versions of them, on our iPads and on our Android devices, and we'll probably even have keyboards and mouses and whatever else we need. And I think Windows will just be out of the picture at that point, but we're still not there. So the iPad Pro is a device waiting for a purpose, and hopefully the software catches up soon.
I had the Samsung Note Pro, which was a 12-inch tablet. It went nowhere. After a year, they killed it, and I was going, great, I have a dead tablet now. And it never worked that well. It was okay. So when the iPad Pro came out, I went, maybe this is good. So I went down to Best Buy. I got it, and I returned it the next day. And she goes, why are you returning it? I don't like it. It doesn't do anything. It's just not worth the money.
I never had any interest in tablets. I use my smartphone all the time. It fits in one hand, and then if I go north of that, I want a laptop that I can actually unfold and use the keyboard. I like a keyboard.
Yeah.
Seeing as we're early in 2016, I want to ask you, Tony, what was the things in 2015 in, say, gear or anything really that interested you?
I can't say that there was anything hugely revolutionary in 2015. Everybody says the most interesting piece of camera equipment was the Sony A7R II, because it had 42 megapixels, which was bigger than we had in 2014, slightly bigger, and it had a stabilized sensor and it had 4K video, and it was versatile. But the A7R2 is still not the camera that I go to for everything, because it's still, the focusing is still slow. There still just aren't enough lenses, like native lenses for the system. So in the photography and videography world, nothing so much blew me away in 2015. Honestly, I've been kind of disappointed with all the camera companies. I think they need to start acting a little more like software companies. Mm-hmm. They need to start using proper operating systems. They need to go towards the app model. They need to start focusing on good software, connectivity to the internet, communications, and they just haven't. They've just been making new versions of the same old model.
And it's sort of sad,
I think I saw one of the Pentax or something that came out. It was exactly the same camera, but they just put Wi-Fi on it.
Yeah. Nikon does that too. They just, now this one has a GPS and the other one didn't. I'm like, all right, I'm not excited about that. That's not something new.
I would love to see every camera having an articulating screen. I mean, why not? I haven't broken one yet.
No, everybody says they're not durable enough, but we traveled the world with GH4s, and they got soaked. We dropped them and threw them around. We never once used a proper camera case. I always just threw them in the back of a backpack, and people who know me know I'm so rough with my gear. Articulating screens on those GH4s, not a scratch on them, worked perfectly. They survived heavy downpours that killed our big Canon 5Ds.
Wow.
There's no reason. Articulating screens can be very durable. We don't need to be shying away from them.
No.
It's just they continue to follow this old traditional model even when there are better ways to do it.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And Canon, I know, has lost sales. I was talking to a sales rep at one of the places we shop at, and he said the GH4 was hurting everybody the first year. I mean, to the point of really hurting everybody. He goes, not so much now, because people still want to take better photos, and the GH4 isn't the best at photos. It's okay.
No.
I mean, you got to spend a lot of money on lenses, and then maybe you can get some really nice photos out of it. But it's just doesn't have that color that either the Nikons or the Canons have, for example. Even Sony has, I think, better color and look to the pictures. The dynamic range or something just seems a lot nicer.
I'd be okay with it if they just had the lenses. For me, it's all about the lenses. Yeah. Sony makes great cameras, but they just don't have the lenses. Right now, Canon and Nikon have the lenses, and if we have a proper photo shoot, if we're not trying to shoot video, if we're actually taking pictures for a client, then it's a Canon or a Nikon still.
But it's interesting when you talk about lenses. Look what Sigma and Tamron are doing to Canon. They're killing them.
And they're making the best lenses in the business. They really are. They're leaving Canon and Nikon, and Sony all behind. Sony makes pretty awful lenses in general.
I've got 2 Sigmas now.
Zooms, anyway.
3 actually. I've got 3 Sigmas, and I go, wow, this cost me. Well, one of them cost me $1,300 recently. That was the 24 to 70, I think, or 18 to 70. That was expensive, and I got it for the Nikon. But man, it's a beautiful lens. And then the Tamron 35 millimeter is one of the best primes I've ever gotten. And it was
that thing is incredibly sharp.
Yeah, for $599, that was a good deal. And the same equivalent in Nikon was something like $1,400. I was going, oh, it's a lot of money, or $1,500. It was a lot. So, yeah, there's a lot of. I think the industry is changing. Give it another year. I wonder where we're going to be, and I wonder if Panasonic will again hurt the market with whatever they come up with. Be interesting.
It's tough to say because 3 years ago Canon had the video market, especially ever since they released the 5D Mark II. They revolutionized. They invented DSLR video.
Yeah,
and then Panasonic stole it completely with the GH4, and even like the GH2 and the GH3. But then Sony came along and took a good chunk of that market, and I don't think Canon and Nikon are ever getting it back. I think most of us have moved on to mirrorless for that type of work.
Yeah. What were you saying, Jeff?
So Tony, with 2015, bit of a disappointment with all the different things that brought out. What would you like to see coming out in 2016 that would help you in your business?
Well, with the new Nikon D500, they announced a service that I cannot remember the name of because it has the least catchy name. It's like Snap Feed or something, and I don't remember what the name of it is. But what it does is it takes the pictures from your phone and is supposed to transfer them over to your camera or rather it takes pictures from your camera that you take and puts them on your phone automatically. So my number one thing that I think will save the camera industry is getting pictures onto Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, because right now the camera industry is disappearing because everybody's using their smartphones to take pictures. And the reason they're doing that is because it's easier and faster. People just want to share pictures all the time. They're willing to take a lower quality picture as long as they can get it online immediately. And the camera manufacturers' solutions, the Wi-Fi and their stupid native proprietary apps and the manual kind of transferring back and forth is too time consuming. It's too clumsy. It's too difficult for most people. So this app promises to do it transparently in the background without bothering you at all. So all the pictures from your camera will just be on your phone. And nice. I think that will be a huge leap forward. And I hope that it actually works. And I hope the other camera manufacturers do the same thing or something better.
Yeah, that certainly would make a big difference to it. I was also watching one of your videos the other night, and I'm afraid I associate myself with it. It was the 5 worst types of photographers.
And which one are you?
I'm afraid to say I sometimes fit into the gerd nerd part, taking too much equipment.
Yeah, most of that was based on us personally. So I think some people found it offensive, but we were making fun of ourselves more than anybody.
But I must admit, since I have watched that and watched some of your videos, my photography, I've been taking more photos because I've been bogged down a lot of the times with having a camera bag and taking it out, like you said, but just to put it on. Just take it out of the bag and just take it out, and it's ready to take a photo at a moment's notice. That's made a big difference.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's one of the first tips in Chapter 1 of Stunning Digital Photography. I say ditch the camera bag, ditch the lens cap. And a lot of people are afraid that, like, well, I don't want to ruin my camera, but I've never broken a camera because of that, nor have I damaged any sort of lens or anything. But shaving off 5 seconds from taking a picture will make you take that many more pictures. It means you will annoy your family that much less when you're traveling because you're not going to be hunting around to find your lens cap, and you'll just have a better time doing it. And so I think there's a negligible risk to your camera equipment, especially for taking off that lens cap and just using a lens hood. But also just go with a single lens. Just keep that camera ready. You just have to have it with you all the time, and that will do so much more for your photography than protecting the front element of your lens properly.
So if you had to take a single lens, what would your main lens be?
If I had to pick one lens, it would probably be the Sigma 24 to 105 f4. I know we were just talking about Sigma, but that art lens is fantastic.
Yeah, that's another one I have. That's a beautiful lens.
Yeah, and it's real versatile. You can get great landscapes on the wide end, and you can even get headshots at 105 and f4 is enough to get some decent background blur out of it. It's really versatile.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. You know, I don't know if you ever noticed, but Sigma's in Fukushima, Japan, and they only got good after the nuclear reactor blew. You just wonder sometimes.
You think it's like an X-Men situation?
It might be.
Yeah.
Because, you know, before
some super
that,
genius over there.
Yeah, it's been like 4 years, I think, and that's when they started coming out with the good art lenses and everything else, and you just go, that's really odd. I wonder.
Yeah, they really reinvented themselves. They used to make just very crappy kind of lenses, and I know they're still shaking their reputation, but the lenses nowadays are better than Canon and Nikon. Yeah, just the build quality, the image quality, everything.
They're amazing.
They're the benchmark.
And the quality of what you get afterwards, the shots look beautiful. Even I've been doing some night shooting with them. Wow. They're just gorgeous. So
yeah. If you haven't, go to my channel and look up our Sigma 24 to 105 versus the Canon 24 to 105 video. And it's just funny how bad that Canon L lens is in comparison to the Sigma. The Sigma
and that's an L lens.
Absolutely blows it away.
And Jeff, you have that L lens.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I do have the 24 to 105, but that was before I got your advice, Tony. So I can forgive myself for that. So.
Oh, I forgive you. And eBay is your friend. Well, maybe not in Australia. I don't know what exists down there, but there must be something.
Yeah, they'll be able to get it from somewhere.
It's
but as I said, with all the different types of cameras are bad. Like I shoot with a Canon 60D still, so I'm hanging out to upgrade my camera soon. So I'm in the process. Do I get a Nikon 750, the Canon 5D? I just don't know. There's so many different ones. The Sony one or what? So there's so many to choose from. But I mean, I'm not a professional photographer, so what I have really does suit me at the moment.
Yeah, and that's all that matters. If you don't have to worry about it, just don't if you're happy with the pictures, because there's so many people who put more energy into picking the gear than they do into actually taking the pictures. And just wait until the gear fails you in some way. When you can't get close enough to the bird, or you try to focus on something and it misses, or you go to make a huge print and you just don't have enough pixels to make it sharp, that's the point at which you upgrade. But so many people are like, am I good enough to get a full frame camera? And there's no bearing between those things. You can be the best photographer in the world and shoot with a small sensor, or if you are a beginning photographer but you're trying to make massive landscapes for your living room, you're probably going to need a big full frame camera and good quality glass.
Now, you wrote a book.
Well, I know one thing. Oh, sorry, I know for one thing what I'm going to do. I've just started watching your weekly YouTube. I can't watch it live because it's about 3 o'clock in the morning here, but I just watched the recording last night, and where you submit your photos on it. But it's quite an excellent show, so it's quite a lot of variety. I thought at first, I was sitting down for an hour watching that, will I be entertained enough? And it just went so quickly. So well done on that, and you've got another viewer each week with that one.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we have a really good time with it too. And I had to install a clock in the studio because often we would run really, really, really late because we didn't know what time it was, and we would just be having a good time with it. You know, we'd try to go an hour, and we'd look up, and it'd be like an hour and 45 minutes.
Yep.
It's a good time.
Yep. Now, with Chelsea, your wife,
Yeah.
did you guys meet as photographers, or did you meet before you got into photography real seriously? And she's a photographer too, right?
Yeah, she's a photographer, and she was an amateur photographer when I met her. But I had been a professional photographer for a while, and I brought her into the business. So she started helping me out with stock, because stock photography, microstock photography, there's a lot of like bookkeeping and labeling pictures, tagging them appropriately, uploading them, going back and forth with the agencies to get pictures accepted and all that. So that was kind of the first thing that she did when we started working together. She was a vet tech before that. And then she got involved in the picture taking, and she did a lot of modeling, and she's been working alongside with me ever since.
That's great. Yeah, my wife works with us too.
I couldn't do without her.
And I'm trying to get her. I showed her a little bit of your show the other day, and she goes, "What do they do?" I go, "They're talking photography." She goes, "Really?" "Yeah, and they're husband and wife." Okay.
Hint.
And I said, you could learn how to be a photographer. And she's like, and you wouldn't believe this. Every time I give her a new camera, I said, "Hit the shutter release." She goes, "Where's that?" Huh. She's an
under your finger,
IBM,
just wherever your finger happens to be. That's where they probably put it.
Well, I tell her, "You're an IBM systems programmer. There's no hope. There's just no hope."
Well, we wouldn't want to pull her out of the tech industry anyway.
No, she works with us, so but I've had her shoot stuff for me. I said, "Okay, do me a favor, start the video when I say go, and I do a whole thing, and I said, "Okay, stop." She goes, "Stop what? Did you start it? Start what?" She's not a photographer. I
can't say that's been my experience with Chelsea. She's been quite fantastic at everything.
Yeah, she does. You guys, I love the videos you guys do when you're together, and they're funny. You even had your daughter in one of them. I saw her running towards you, and I thought it was really cute. But
yeah, she makes a regular appearance in the shows.
Yeah, and it's fun. But it's fun seeing the family businesses do well and everything else. But no, I noticed that both of you you obviously have that photographic bent, and the reviews are very good. I have to admit, you are probably, if not one of the best photo reviewer and really podcaster in this field that we've found, and always appreciate watching the shows. So
thank you.
You do a good job.
I appreciate it.
One
Yeah,
of the things
put a lot of energy into it, and we have a good time with it.
Is photography is a lot about preparation and that. And one of the good video YouTubes I liked watching was the picture on that Lightroom book Tony has. It was showing how they did the picture for that, and that was just fantastic. Out of some the lighting that they got and how they got the stars in the eyes, and that was well worth watching that to see how he got that picture with the bubble wrap. That's just fantastic.
Now that's another book,
thanks.
Tony. The
Yeah, for
Lightroom
everybody else,
book-
if you go to my YouTube channel, which is stp.io/YT, that particular video is under the best of. So that should be one of the first things you see. You'll see Chelsea with stars in her eyes and kind of a blue background. But yeah, it's a cool video, and it was completely improvised and just a behind the scenes thing. There was no fakery or trickery in any of that.
Now, you also wrote the Lightroom 6 book and Lightroom 5 and everything, but on the current book, that's a really good book too. A lot of great content in that. I've been struggling with Lightroom only because I kind of hate it, but it's probably because I didn't know it.
Great.
It's an interesting program, but I started looking at your tutorial and I went, oh, there's a lot of things I don't know. And I use a lot of other Photoshop products, and I even used to be on one of the Adobe advisory boards for some of their learning products. But Lightroom, I'm still not 100% resonating with it. I can do it. I get it. It's not very good for video, but it's great for photos. What else do you recommend to people who either don't have? I know a lot of people still do aperture on the Macs. What do you like?
I'm still a Lightroom guy. We use Capture One in the studio because we shoot tethered in the studio, and Lightroom
That one looks good too.
What's that?
That one looks good too, Capture One.
Yeah, I still just haven't migrated my main library over to Capture One. I just haven't gotten used to it. But it's so much faster than Lightroom. Lightroom is so slow. And people blame their computers. They think they need to upgrade their computer. I have the fastest computer, period. And Lightroom is still painfully slow, especially once you get yourself a 50 megapixel camera. It becomes terrible. But Capture One, actually usable, even with these big cameras.
Okay.
And if you're looking for something free, I like Picasa is really good from Google. Google Picasa. Great free app, handles RAW files really well.
Okay. So that's not too bad. Yeah, you know what? You're right. I thought it was me at first, but my systems are fast. And I go, Lightroom's slow. Is it me?
It's terribly designed. And in fact, they did something kind of shameful in this most recent update. They sold a lot of people saying there were going to be huge performance improvements. And in fact, they bragged about offloading work to the GPU, which is kind of a nerd buzzword. And when we actually did testing on it, we found that enabling the GPU acceleration slowed down almost everything for almost everybody. And the developer came out and said, oh, yeah, it's going to slow stuff down for just about everybody. You should probably turn it off. But that was the main selling point. And then the developer wanted to be but we're still working on it. We're going to be improving it. Well, then just release it then. Anyway, they sold thousands and thousands of these products on a fake promise of better performance that they simply didn't deliver. They kind of delivered the opposite.
I think
and a lot of people are still suffering with it because they don't know how to go in and turn that setting off.
And I think part of the problem with Adobe is they are now, I think, pretty much offshoring every product they have. I think they're all done in India now. And some of the Indian people are wonderful. They're not the best coders on earth. It's a scary kind of proposition. Because I'm seeing bugs already where I never used to see bugs in Adobe products. Lightroom's got some interesting
the Creative
bugs.
Cloud has been a terrible thing for Adobe. The way they're releasing incremental updates, it's broken our business several times, especially both in Lightroom and in Premiere Pro. Recently, they updated the import dialog in Lightroom, and they did an appalling job on it. And then they had to release another update where they just undid that. And I hear about it because I have a Lightroom book out. So I actually get readers who think they associate me with Lightroom. And so when Lightroom does something stupid, they get mad at me. And I will actually get bad reviews on my book because Adobe did that with the changes with the import dialog. They gave me 1-star reviews because of that. It's not me. I hate it too.
Yep. Well, the Amazon reviews are great because you see people giving a product a 1-star review, and then you read it says it arrived late. Why are you blaming the product?
I know. I don't shove it out. Sometimes I shove it out.
But I think I've seen for this year, there's a few people saying the same thing. Is what they'd like to see this year is software manufacturers not bring out any new versions of any software for this year, just make sure the ones that they do have work.
Yeah. Oh man, I still use Microsoft Word and Office and PowerPoint and stuff, and that those apps still have bugs from like the 80s.
I know.
Why can't they fix it? It's been like 25 years.
And I don't know about you, but they also have the worst UI on earth. It's unreadable
They do.
crap. And what happened
Yeah.
to contrast? I mean, I hear more complaints. You know, I have bad eyes, so I understand that, but I look at young people going, huh? I can't read that. It's just awful. What happened to, you know, form before function in software is not a good idea. So it's
Yeah, I'm
interesting.
there with you.
Now we're getting to the end of the show now, Tony, and what we ask a few of the guests is, what's your all-time favorite movie?
Oh man, I wish I had that chambered. My all-time favorite movie.
Or at least in the top 5.
Well, I'm a big fan of Kubrick, and The Shining definitely has to be in there. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
He's back.
I really liked A Few Good Men. This is dumb, but I've seen Happy Gilmore like 8 times. I don't know why. He
I
punches
like
Bob Barker. That just always makes me laugh. It's the stupidest movie. Just not proud of that one. I'm drawing a blank.
No, but that's why I asked the question, is because a lot of the answers, like that Happy Gilmore one, is the people expect people to say these fantastic top movies, but you usually get the better gems. Like, I must admit, when I was I loved the Happy Gilmore as well, but it's sort of one that's just faded away. And we had another one that liked the Hot Tub Time Machine, which is one I've never even seen before. But it's if you ever seen Hot Tub Time Machine, it is a fantastic comedy.
It is one of those things where you have to preface it with, I have to admit, or I hate to admit.
Yep.
Oh, Interstellar. I got to mention Interstellar, a fairly recent
Interstellar.
movie. That was amazing.
I have to
Yes,
watch that.
that-
I
I
bought
thought
it,
that
but I
was
haven't watched it
fantastic.
yet.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's too bad you missed it in
Well-
the big screen. That's a good one for the big screen.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all based on actual quantum physics, which is sort of interesting.
Yeah, that's part of it. Is I watch so many movies where, as a nerd, stuff falls apart for me real quick. Like I hated Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
for about 100 different reasons, but just because any little thing that's false, it just trips me. And I know lots about military stuff and security stuff, which is real common themes in different movies, and there's always something that's just wrong about the military or computer security or something else, and then I'm done. I just check out of the movie.
Well, you know what I love
I did
about
just watch
science
the movie
fiction?
Amy last night about Amy Winehouse. It was a fantastic documentary. So that rounds out 5.
What
a
I
lot
find
of
interesting
diversity.
is, have you noticed that every time you watch a sci-fi movie and they show a computer room, you still see drives circling?
Yeah, and blinking lights and like
And
numbers
blinking
going
lights.
past on the screen. And the fonts are always huge too. Like
Yes.
the login screen will be like 3/4 of it because they want the camera to be able to see it.
It's just funny. It's just funny. You know, we haven't done really tapes in a long, long time, and they're still showing them. So
Yeah.
gotta love it. Well, Tony, we really appreciate you coming on today. This is fun. And
Yeah, I had a good time. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, we'll invite you on again if you're willing. Next
I'm
time we can
willing.
invite both of you
Anytime.
on. We can add another monitor to this. I think we can add.
Okay, see
4
you
or
next
5
week.
people. Okay. Yeah, no, we're like a bad disease. We may stick to you, so be careful.
I have a few of those already.
Actually, I'm in Stamford, Connecticut next week, and I go, oh, you're in Connecticut, and then I looked, I go, you're way up there in Connecticut. So it's a
We're
little
in
far.
the
I think you're
southeast
about
corner of Connecticut.
Yeah, you're right at the corner, right?
Yeah, close to Rhode Island, yeah.
Very close. Yeah, is it literally on the border?
Rhode Island's only about like half an hour away from here.
Oh, it's still another half hour. Okay. On the map, it looked like it was very, very close.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Isn't it gorgeous up there? That whole area is so beautiful.
It's actually kind of a tough place to do any sort of landscape photography, I think.
Too flat?
Sorry to be picky. I mean, we have the shoreline, and that can be beautiful, but
Yeah.
for landscapes and stuff, it's actually kind of flat.
It's too flat. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it's
we don't
not
have
as
any
flat as
mountains,
Dallas,
there's no
though, or
skiing
Texas,
or
right?
anything nearby. What's that?
It's not as flat as Texas.
Oh no, it's absolutely gorgeous compared to Texas.
Yeah.
Every time
Texas
I go
is flat.
especially Central Texas. Texas has gorgeous places, but
Yep.
Pflugerville, Texas, not a lot of scenery there. Not a lot of landscape photographers coming out of Pflugerville.
I'll never forget the very first time I flew into Dallas. I saw these mushroom-shaped towers, and I go, what is that? And the guy next to me was working with me. He goes, water towers. Water? He goes, Dev, no, it's so flat. There's no pressure. You have to create pressure. Interesting.
Yep.
Never thought of that.
And it's the only thing on the horizon.
That's
these
true.
water towers, because there's no other geography or trees or anything in the way.
That's funny. But it's nice. I like Dallas and places like that.
Yeah, there are some great towns. Austin's a fantastic town.
Never been there. I want to go to Austin. Now, Austin has hills, I heard.
Yeah. I mean,
No,
they talk a lot about it because it's the only geography that they have. But yeah, there are some hills.
Yeah, flat hills,
It
right?
is when your family comes into Austin, you're like, you want to go see the hills? And if they're from any other part of the country, they're like, all right.
Okay.
Doesn't seem real noteworthy, but
That's funny. Anyway. Well, hey, appreciate you coming on again. And by the way, if you wonder sometimes why Jeff sometimes is talking and I'm talking, we have literally a 2 to 3 second lag till this gets to Australia. It's something we
I
didn't.
studied this at Bolt, Berenek, and Newman, BBN. Latency is primarily determined just by the speed of light. And it just takes a long time for light to get from one side of the planet to the other.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
I was wondering how it was going to go, Skyping with people on different sides of the planet. And yeah, there's a little bit of lag.
Yeah, like we're in California, so we're just cross-coastal. It's not that bad. It's pretty much real time. But depending on what Jeff's bandwidth is looking like, and I'm pretty sure it's going through satellite to get here.
Even worse.
It's even worse. So, and sometimes it's great, and other times we notice, about 2 to 3 seconds, Jeff?
Yeah, and sometimes I just disappear altogether.
We've had that happen too. Yeah, it's been good today. You've actually been on, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Tony. Hey, really appreciate. Thank you for taking time, especially on a Friday night, to be with us.
Thank you.
And good luck on everything else. And we highly recommend all of your books and training. You guys do a marvelous job. Your whole
thanks so
company
much
does
for
a
the
great
plugs.
job. No, we're really impressed with what you do. And you know what? It makes us happy to see people do good work, especially in today's day and age. So congrats. You do a good job.
Oh, thanks. We have a good time with it.
We're trying to get you up to the 500,000 subscribers.
Oh, we're getting close. We're going to get there this year. But yeah, anything you can do to help push me a little bit closer, I appreciate.
Okay, we will.
Yeah, we'll try.
Well, have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
And for all you people watching the show on YouTube, please subscribe. Give us your feedback. And if you want to see Tony, what's the best place to contact you or to visit your website?
Yeah, they can go to northrup.photo. That's our main website. But
Okay.
I'm probably more responsive on YouTube or Twitter. So you can look me up on Twitter too.
Sounds good. All righty. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks. Have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks. See you guys.
Bye for now.